Um, but now, Brett, there was some interesting news about the X-Men. I know you wanted to talk about. So, what's that about?
Yeah. So listen, I don't read the comics regularly, but I do like to just, I read a lot of geek news and stuff like that. So whenever there's an announcement from Marvel or DC about some big crossover or some big event in the comics, I read up on it just to kind of see, hey, what's going on. So,
Mhm.
um, we'll take a small little detour with me, and we'll come back and I'll
Sure,
explain like how this relates to what we're probably more into.
I'm ready.
Um, in the comics. The X Men, some years back, they all died, and there was actually no X Men comics for a bit. I think Marvel was trying to kick it to Fox a little bit and be like, "Hey, we're
Yeah,
not going to use any more X Men content." They said they weren't, but we know. So
we know
they
the truth. Damn it.
they did recently bring the X Men back recently,
Yeah.
probably in the last couple of years, and everyone's resurrected again, so no one's dead. Cyclops is back, Jean Grey's back, Professor X is back. Everybody, they all live on their own island called Krakoa, and they just all live there together. And they still have adventures, and there's probably still problems and stuff. But they've also basically discovered like immortality. So like literally, if like one of them dies, they can make like an exact like replica or clone of them with like
Really?
all
Okay.
the memories intact. I don't know how it all works.
Yeah.
If you're really interested, just fucking look it up. I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
giving you the bare bones things just so I can get to my point. So just
Okay.
fucking look it up.
So, by
Okay.
all means, just fucking look it up, and Brett,
Just
get to
fucking look it up.
your point.
But the X-Men love going cosmic. Okay. Everybody at some point eventually goes cosmic. That's all you can do in life. Eventually you go cosmic. All right. That's going to be another t-shirt. Eventually
Yes,
you
it
go.
is.
So when we have our merch store, when we
Yeah,
have more,
just
well,
one shirt.
share the podcast, share it so we can make
Yes.
merch.
Yes.
The X-Men now, they basically are doing a huge retcon to get to the point, and they are changing kind of the origin of what mutants are.
Hmm.
Kind of a big deal. Kind of a big
Yeah.
deal.
In what
This is
way?
like the first really big shift and change in a really long time. So before, like they basically were, the idea was that they are mutated humans. They're humans with like a genetic mutation
Hmm.
or evolution, if you will. What they're actually doing now is now retconning it that they are actually an offshoot of the deviants, which if you are into your comic lore, just fucking look it up if you're not, they are the sworn enemies of the Eternals. So the Eternals are probably a little better known just because now there's
Yeah.
an MCU movie, which I still have not seen. But there's the Eternals, and then there's the Deviants, and the Deviants are like bad. At least for the Eternals, they're bad. And now they're saying that excessive deviation from the deviants resulted in mutants, kind of implying that they kind of are probably deviants that intermingled with humans and caused like the gene pool to kind
I
of
see.
shift and
Yeah.
change. But that's kind of what they're going for right now.
Hmm.
I don't know. I'm not so invested in the comics anymore, so I don't know how I feel about it. I am very curious if you are a big X-Men fan or do stay up with the comics, how you feel about that, because that's a pretty big change.
Yeah.
And it now gives them this cosmic link and this cosmic identity. And when I saw that, I said, we are about to introduce X-Men. Not about to. We haven't had anything announced yet, other than Marvel saying they're doing it. We're gonna have X-Men coming into the MCU. We have the multiverse now. We have an Eternals movie from the MCU, and
Hmm.
I didn't see the movie, but I think deviants are involved, or they've definitely said that term in the MCU,
Yeah.
pantheon at some point. So what I'm thinking is if they're using this as a jumping off point to kind of inform what they're going to do with the X-Men in the MCU. That's how I want it
Interesting.
to all tie together.
Yeah.
So maybe now that they have the Eternals, that they have all that, they can use the multiverse and use some of that to get them involved in one of these big major, crossover events or,
It's
have some.
interesting. Yeah. Because
So
like a bunch of stuff is going to be, for lack of a better term, a lot of stuff is going cosmic this phase in Marvel, right? Because we got Thor: Love and Thunder, which is going to be somewhere out there. We
right.
got Guardians 3, which is going to be somewhere out there. We've got we just did the Eternals, which is further kind of expanding on you know
Yeah.
uh, the cosmic elements of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So, and we know Captain Marvel's eventually going to get a sequel,
Yeah.
and she's kind of floating around, and
Loki
that was
has some crazy stuff,
yeah,
with cosmic stuff.
yeah,
Technically, I mean, you can call the multiverse of madness some kind of weird thing. We also know with the next Ant-Man, we're going into the quantum realm, which is some
yeah,
other freakish place that
yeah.
exists in the Marvel universe. So yeah, they're basically like, we don't want to do any more terrestrial stuff. We're doing stuff everywhere else.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's
That would
interesting. So
be,
yeah, I'm
I
curious
don't
if
know.
that is going to inform the entrance of the X-Men into the MCU, and that's why they're making the change because they want to have some kind of consistency.
See, I don't like that at all, though. That's like, it's
Yeah,
interesting, it's novel, it's original, it's a new spin on, the X-Men mythology. But for me, like, what made the X-Men special was that the way it was sort of allegorical to, society, and how mutant was really like a metaphor for just being different. And a lot of the reasons that the X-Men was popular in the 60s was it was kind of a commentary on the civil rights movement at the time. And it was like Malcolm X and Dr. King were Professor X and Magneto, and their different methodologies for trying to get change. There's the one who thinks we can get the humans to understand us and work with us, and there's the one who says we just have to kill them all. And at the end of the day, it all comes from this thing of like, some of us are just born different, and we're going to feel like outsiders, and people are going to persecute us, but there is something special about us. And I like that grounding for the X-Men mythology, making it suddenly now like there's this alien cosmic element. If they do change it into that, I don't know, that to me, that's going to sort of like dirty up the concept a little for me. It muddies the waters a little bit. It's not nearly as intriguing for me, but
yeah,
I
you
guess we'll
took the words
see.
right out of my mouth with that. Honestly, like
Yeah.
I was thinking the exact thing. I'm like the fact that like I could be a mutant, like
Yeah.
it was human. It was rooted in like a little more grounded. Now,
Yeah.
yeah, now it's just I mean, technically, I guess it could be the same thing if this is just given the reasoning for the mutations. But yeah,
For the
it's just that it comes for some like weird like Deus Ex Machina in space or something. It's just like
yeah.
weird.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but well, I guess we'll keep an eye on that. In the years to come, we're going to find out how they're going to bring these X-Men in. We might even get a clue in Doctor Strange too, since we know Professor Xavier pops up in some form. So maybe we'll get our first real idea of how they're going to do this. And that's an interesting link you made, though, because you're right. When the comics got phased out, that was like when the MCU was doing great, and Marvel clearly wanted the film rights to the X-Men back. So,
yeah.
and Fox owned them. So they were like, let's discontinue the comics so that, to try to like bring down
They did it with
interest in the
Fantastic
X-Men.
Four too, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken.
Yeah.
They also dropped that comics. They were like
Hmm.
really like trying to stick it to them to try to like,
Yeah.
you
So,
know.
so in other words, yeah, like this wouldn't be the first time that there's been some correlation between what's going on in the comics and whatever philosophies are happening over at Marvel Studios, whatever
Right.
they're sort of thinking about and planning and strategizing for.
Sure.
So yeah, bringing in this cosmic link for X-Men may be that may be the door they're trying to open to bring in our beloved mutants. I just I hope they don't.